Welcome everyone to episode 24 of Twitch Tales. In the last episode, Apis decided that Sally, although still probably a problem, was not an immediate problem to Shadridge, having been chased out of here. And so Apis decided it was time to head back to Jack Creed's farm and do some practice with some archery. When they got back to Jack Creed's farm, they were directed by the buzz, pun intended, of buzz of excitement, over to the base of a tree where they found a very ornate box, a little wooden dice box. They found that written on this box in Sylvan was the name Bobby, and the dice were very nice and drew Apis's attention somewhat. However, when Apis picked them up and put them on their person, they realised that they also came with the feeling of being watched. Thinking nothing much of it, Apis went about their business, doing some training with bow and arrow and sneaking and basically training their dexterity. Until eventually this feeling of being watched got stronger and stronger until they knew. They knew exactly what was watching them, and sure enough, looking over to the tree line, they see a little cherub dressed in greenery, aka the little shit. The little shit flew on over and said, "I see you found my dice," and then proceeded to explain in a very cryptic way that these dice once belonged to them, and Bobby was one of the names that they go by. And that the dice, having been found by Apis, now belonged to Apis, and and as much as they claimed that they wanted them back now and would give Apis anything in return for having these dice back, it later came up in conversation that they were somewhat being deceptive in their wording, and they didn't actually want the dice back, or rather, they couldn't take the dice back on orders of their master. So Apis kept the dice, discovered that they have some sort of magical powers, some sort of divination powers, a portent-like ability that can give you a somewhat cryptic answer to a question. If you are to use them, ask them a question. What else happened? Then Bobby reached out and pressed a thumb to Apis's forehead, and in doing so revealed more of Apis's amnesiac past. The time specifically that Apis arrived in the Feywild and met the Merry Gentleman, or Diggin. Apis learned that they'd spent a little more time talking with Diggin in his house than they would have first assumed based on revealed knowledge so far. And apparently Diggin has been helping Apis with training. And that training seems to come back to Apis over the next couple of days back in the real world, when they continue to train their bow and arrow, their stealth, their sleight of hand, their acrobatics, their initiative, all of those things that come from having a +2 to your dexterity. As the training it reveals itself to Apis once more. Apis levels up, becomes a little harder, a little harder to hit. We've gone up to a max HP of 45 now, which is pretty impressive. Especially for a level 4 character, and a +3 to our dex modifier, giving us a +7 to hit with our bow and arrow. We're rather a sharpshooter. And that's where we are beginning, as Apis wakes the next morning on the farm. This is the morning of the 28th of Yelabris, so like middle-ish of spring. What do you guys want to do? It's over to you guys, really. You have lots of different threads, lots of different things happening at the moment. What do you guys want to do? Displacer pickup. You won't be ready for the displacer pickup yet. So you were told that the displacer cloak would take 2 weeks. It has been about 1 week. The displacer is ready for pickup in about 8 days. Yeah, 1 more week from today. and even then it'll only be tanned and ready for turning into a cloak. It's a long process to actually turn it into a magical item. You give the displacer skin to somebody. He first cleaned it. Now he's in the process of tanning it, turning it into actually usable leather. And then once it's usable leather, they need to actually turn it into a cloak properly. And then once it's a cloak, you'll need to enchant it. The guy you've given it to won't be doing the enchantment. He'll just be turning it into an actual physical cloak that you can then take to an arcanist of some sort to get enchanted. Mel was also practicing dexterity alongside you, and not that you, I suppose Apis would know just from having trained with Mel now for the last few days, but Mel also took Dex +2. And Mel is very dexterous as she's loop-de-looping, flying around and almost giving you target practice. You're not trying to hit her, obviously, but maybe she's carrying a little target beneath her when doing some loop-de-loops, and you're having to fire at the target. So, who is in favour of going back to Shadridge? Put thumbs up, yes emote if you want to go back to Shadridge now. You're about an hour's walk from Shadridge when you're sitting on this farm. Alright, everybody is in favour of going back to Shadridge, so that's what you're going to do. You cannot armour the bee in this town. That would need some very specialist equipment. You're probably going to need to find a very specialised blacksmith to do so, which would require probably a big city, probably even bigger than Fondirg. Alright, so in that case you are going to go to Shadridge. So Apis finishes breakfast. It's probably burnt and terrible, knowing how good Apis is at making food from previous roles. But you're only feeding yourself, so no harm in making burned food. We start to set off back towards Shadridge in the morning with Mel in tow. And we get there, we see that there are a number of people out and about. There's a new house. There's a new house being built, and most of them are working on that. It seems like they're sort of expanding the town slowly, just continuing the expansion of this very small frontier town. I've said before that the town of Shadridge is, well, it's more like a hamlet or a village than a town. Actually, it's like a population of around about 100, give or take. So there's a new shop or residence or some sort of building being built on the outskirts of town, and most people are there. You can see that as you're approaching, there is it's being overseen / worked on by Kathleen and Darren as well, who are also there. Kathleen and Darren, for anyone who's new, are the law enforcement of the town. They belong to a faction called the Knights of Kevostna. Kathleen is in charge, being the rank of Badger, and Darren and another one called Hlefa, a half-elf, are the rank of Squire, just below Badger. So we start to approach. Kathleen and Darren are there, as is John the carpenter and various others, some of the stronger members of the village, all helping to chip in and do their parts to put this building up. Mosh you don't see. Mosh, for anyone who's new as well, is an ally of ours. We wouldn't really call him a friend yet, because Apis is slow to trust. But Mosh is an ally, and we have recently discovered that he is a werefox. He can turn himself into a fox, although Apis is keeping that information hush-hush because it's not public knowledge. Should we check in with Kathleen? Alright, so we wander over to the building. From the size of it, it looks like it's going to be about the same size as Edith's apothecary shop. We wander over and say, morning, Kathleen, how's it going? You doing alright? And she says, Apis, it's good to see you. I wondered if you'd taken off. I haven't seen you in a few days. I thought you may have had enough of this town, understandably, and gone off to the wilderness. I thought about it, but no, I'm still around, at least for now. I wouldn't want to leave you in the lurch with things unfinished, if you know what I mean. How's our strength? We've had more days of rest. Yeah, our strength is completely back to normal, fully back to our regular strength, which is a 13 or a +1. And are you is everything all right here? Like no problems with the town or anything? And she says, if you mean Sally, she hasn't returned. We've not seen any sight nor sound of her. Well, I say she hasn't returned, but we have checked on her house yesterday, this morning and yesterday. This morning there was no further things missing, but yesterday we're pretty sure there were some books missing. We hadn't gotten around to taking a full inventory of her equipment or anything yet, but I'm almost certain that she's been back in the night about 2 nights ago and taken some books. Either that or someone in the town has helped themselves to her library. It doesn't seem to have been anything from her secret room in the attic. By this point, Kathleen's walked away from the rest of the crowd. She wouldn't be talking about this stuff in front of other villagers. But she's come off to the side with you and says, I have a feeling that she's come back and grabbed a few of her belongings, managed to sneak in and then back out again. I don't believe that she's in town still. It's much too small for her to be hiding out here unless there was someone in town specifically hiding her. I don't think that she's working with anyone, or maybe that's wishful thinking. Kathleen, you notice, is wearing full armor, yes. It seems like her strength has returned over the last 3 days. She's managed to get all of her strength back. Can we look for clues as to where she was headed next? Sorry, I just joined, no clue what's going on. That's fine, Lady of Shadows. So just to give you a quick recap. So Sally, when she was chased out of town, ran past the Colton's farm. In fact, why don't I show you this? Show you the map. Let's show you the map. There we are. So this is the map of the area. You are in this frontier town called Shadridge, so called for being built on a shady ridge. How do I drag it? It's like that, isn't it? Yeah. So down from this area here, let me go to arrow. So down from the south west, it would be, there is a much larger town, probably bordering on city size, somewhere between large town and small city. There is a small city called Fondirg. It's about a 2-day travel on foot, about a day on horseback, and it goes through lots of sort of uncharted territory, uncharted terrain. Shadridge, hence, is therefore a frontier town that's built out here in the sides of a very large forest. Part of its reason for being built here is to to secure the area against monsters and bandits and any other nasties that live out in the wild, and then secure a path between Fondirg and a very plentiful source of very strong wood for building and things. About an hour's walk out of Shadridge is Jack Creed's farm and apiary, where we first found the dead body that kicked off the entire campaign, and the giant bee that is now our companion. About a 45-minute walk out of town this way is a farm that supplies Shadridge with most of its food. And just on the outskirts of Shadridge, probably about where the S is here, about a 10-minute walk, is another farm that's no longer being used as a farm, but it was being used as a barracks instead. It was a makeshift. It was what they were turning into a barracks before all of this issue went down. Into the forest to the north. This is where we found the goblin camp and the 4 sister villages of the elves: Helwrin, Dalbin Ilawad, Arushel, and Munglofau. And then to the north of the forest, I'm still not used to incants. Keep selecting things when I'm trying to move. To the north of the forest is an uncharted area of land that we don't know anything about, called the Great Expanse. When Sally, the necromancer, left in a hurry from Shadridge, she ran this way. She ran past the Colton's farm and into the forest. We managed to track her successfully to about here-ish, where she had a circle, a sort of ritualistic summoning circle of sorts that she used to summon the living shadows in the first place, the ones that she attacked Shadridge with. When we tracked her there, we found that she had destroyed it in a hurry, and then she'd continued east. We didn't track her for very long further east, but she went in this general direction. and we don't know where she went. But apparently she might have circled back round and grabbed some of her things, or somebody else might have grabbed some of her things, or something like that. That's all we know about it. So back to here. What do we want to do then? We're talking with Catherine. We're talking with Kathleen, the head of the law enforcement in town. Is there anything specific we want to ask her about? Ask her if there's an option to work with the Knights but not be a Knight. Field trip, becoming a Knight. So we say, well, firstly, somebody wanted to see Mosh, so we say, where's Mosh, by the way? And she says, he's back on the Colton's farm. There's a lot of work needing to be done around the farm to keep up with demand of a growing population here. Not that we're really growing at the moment, but we're intending to. And we say, is there, by the way, your offer of joining the Knights of Kevostna, I'm in two minds about it. Is there a way that we can join, that I could like work with you without being like an official knight? And her eyebrow cocks and she says, my lucky day, I suppose. I wanted to broach something with you if you were to come back, but I didn't want it to. I suppose you've given me an in here. Yes, there absolutely is. I have a job that needs doing, but I don't have the person power to send somebody away. Darren Schleifer and I are rather busy here, and we have our work cut out for us, as is Mosh and all of the more strong folk of town. So I was rather hoping that you'd come back and want to help out in some way or another. You see, there's and she takes you even further away from the rest of the party and says, I don't want to worry the rest of the town, but we haven't been receiving supplies from Fondirg for a while. I think that something is blocking the path, or perhaps, I don't know, perhaps intercepting messages. I didn't tell you before when I didn't trust you entirely, but I don't think they ever actually got the messages that I was sending them about you, and about how I was suspicious of you, and about how the troubles here were becoming worrisome. I never actually got any replies from them. It is unlike them to have not sent somebody to help, or to send some supplies to help out with all sorts of things, but I think something might be blocking the path, and I've been hoping to get out there myself for a little while now. For a few days I've been wanting to get back towards Fondirg, but I haven't been able to justify leaving the town unguarded, especially with not knowing where Sally is or when she'll be back. If you wouldn't mind, I would very much appreciate you taking the path towards Fondirg and seeing if there's something holding up the supplies and whatnot. Of course, you're under no obligation. You will not be an official knight because of it, but I can see to it that you are given a little bit of coinage for your efforts. What do you guys think? Yes? No? I want coins and bee armor, because they just keep that around. She's probably got some in her pocket. She's got custom made mithril bee armor that she just keeps on her in this tiny little this what do they call it? Backwater town? Is that the expression? Can we borrow a cart? Make us a target. That's a good idea. Yeah, you could make yourself look like bait. Everybody's in a agreement that Apis should accept. Nobody seems to feel against the idea of the side quest. Ask for more info. Invite Mosh as well. You say, could we? Do you reckon Mosh would want to come? And she says, I considered asking Mosh if I found out that you weren't coming back, I would have asked Mosh. But I think he is much too busy on the Colton's farm. You can ask him, but the Coltons are struggling a little. Ask if there are important things to know before we set out. I'm sure there are, but the whole point of the excursion is to gather information about what it is that's holding up the issue. All you need to know is that there is no major path for about a day's journey from here on foot. As you get past the sort of dead, there's a small region of dead trees. As you get past those, there's a path begins. It's a dirt path, but from there it's about a day's journey. The journey on the path, it moves through woodland. There are trees on the way, but not strong, large trees. Not good enough for the people, the needs of the people of Fondirg. Now that it's grown to the size that it has, I'm not sure what else I can tell you about the area. Of course, as a ranger, you're very well aware of how dangerous certain creatures can be within the area. If one has moved into this area, then it could be as simple as an owlbear or something is attacking, or displace a beast or something. Can we have something that shows that we work with the Knights so we don't get arrested again? That's a good idea. Yes, like a letter of recommendation or something. Okay, yeah. So we say, sure. Do you mind if you write me a little something though to say that I'm working with you in case I get arrested or something? I want to show that if I'm delivering a message, I want something that. And she goes, yes, yeah, of course. I'll write you a message that I wish for you to deliver, but I'll also write you something that you can just keep on your person to say that you're sort of honorarily working with us, I suppose. Horse and a pack mule. Is that what we want? Do we want them to get a pack horse or something? So you've noticed in your time in Shadridge that they have horses. They've got each of the knights has had their own horse, but only the squires are above. So Warren didn't have his own horse, but Paul probably did, and Paul is now dead. So you could maybe take Paul's horse. A horse will be much faster, makes us look wealthier too. It does, yeah. Yeah, going on horseback. So she's told you that going on foot will take about 2 days. Going on horseback will take about a day. Freelance is more free than being restricted by the night rules. Yes, it is, but you don't get the same sort of commission rates. So there's benefits and there's pluses and minuses to both. You can be a freelance sort of consultant, Sherlock Holmes-esque style, rather than working for the Knights specifically. But you won't get the same perks as you would if you actually joined the Knights. But then again, you won't get the same sort of restrictions as you might if you joined the Knights. All right, so what's the plan? You guys ask for a horse, and she says, a horse, yes, of course. I intended to give you a horse of some sort. I would rather keep my own, and Darren and Hlefo would obviously want theirs. But Paul did have a horse. It was getting on a little in age, but it should still be fine for a journey such as this. As long as you don't sort of race him into the ground, I'm sure he'll be able to manage the journey fine. I can set you up with that. It will be a loner, of course, and I hope you understand. It's not horse, of course. I hope you understand. It's not. I'm not in a position to give away Paul's horse. Part of actually what we'll talk later about the specifics, but part of what I want for you to do, if I can get a message through, is to inform Paul's daughter of his passing. And if she wants his belongings, the horse included, then of course she has first refusal. Classy version of dibs, yeah. Do we need food for the horse, or is this an area where we're going grassy enough? We ask her that, will we need to take horse food with us? And she says, for the first half of the day, if we feed up the horse before the journey starts, the horse should make it fine. For about a day's journey on foot, or about half a day's journey by horse, it is not the grassiest of terrain. It's sort of mountainous, almost rocky. and then once you get past the area of dead trees, you'll get into the much more grassy area. The second half of the journey, the horse will be fine. So I suppose just take a handful of the hay with you, and you should be fine. All right. So is anybody wanting to do anything in Shadridge before setting off on this journey? She says, anyway, let me know when you're ready to go, and I'll set you up with all that you need. I really should be getting back, and she walks over and rejoins the party that's building up the house. You can see that Darren's up the top of a ladder now with a couple of nails in his mouth. Check on Edith. Check on Franklin. Ask if we can get a cart. Hide Mel in the cart. That could be a good idea. Because presumably Mel will be coming with you. Mel is with you at the moment, buzzing around. And then after Kathleen leaves, we turn and explain to Mel in Sylvan, so that she can actually understand everything that was just mentioned. Can we get some studded leather armor first? Maybe. Cart horses are a bit different from riding horses, yeah. But I'm sure this old boy could handle a small enough cart. Alright, so we've got the options. Check on Edith, check on Mosh, visit the blacksmith, secure a small cart, or check on Franklin. Franklin, for those who don't know, is our friend, the only person in town that we would probably call a friend. Is that still the case now? I feel like we're closer with a few more people now. Yeah, I mean, it's up to you whether you think Apis would consider any of the others a friend, or whether they're still... Because keep in mind that time in D&D never runs quite as quickly as time outside of D&D. So this is... Let me look at my timeline. This is currently the 18th day since starting the campaign nearly a year ago. We've only gone forwards 18 days in game time. We started on the 11th of Eulabris. It is now the 28th of Eulabris. We've not even gone through a full month yet. So even if Apis is getting close with some of them, it's still only been 18 days. Yeah, one day recently, man, if you could see my timeline notes, the 23rd of Eulabris was unbelievable. It's almost half a page just in the notes for that one day. and then counter, like, juxtaposed to only 3 days later, the 26th of Eulabris is just downtime practicing. That's all it is. Downtime practicing. Yeah, that 23rd Eulabris took what, 4 sessions to get through that one day. A lot happened that day. With an overwhelming 69% of the vote, Apis decides to go and check on their friend Franklin before we leave. So that's what we do. We wander through town. We get to the baker's shop, which should be open on a day like this, late enough into the morning, as we are. Probably about half the way through the morning, so probably about 10 a.m. or the equivalent. It's closed. There is a closed sign on the door. So we're gonna. What do you guys want to do? You want to ask the neighbours if Franklin's around. Try the back door, or something else. Knock first. So we knock, obviously. There's no answer. Check for signs of intrusion. Not on the front door. The glass window is still there. Still intact. The wooden door is still there, intact. Ask the neighbours, ask around. Yeah, a couple of people saying ask around first. Alright, so Apis decides to go next door. There's a chandler that lives next door, a candle maker, somebody who works with wax and things. Jo is the chandler. So we've actually met her, because she was with Quentin. She was with Quentin guarding over Edith's body through the night a couple of nights ago. So we're walking through the chandler's door. Tring! And we see Jo sitting there. She's got a side of the head shaved on the left side, and her the rest of her hair's quite long and held down the right side over her shoulder. She's got quite a significant scar down the side of her face here, and she's otherwise relatively bland. There's not a lot of exciting or noticeable features to her. She's regular sort of a human woman, about midway through her 20s, early 30s ish, and she's working on she's working in front of like a big vat, almost like looks like churning butter kind of thing, but she's working on something, dipping something and pulling it out, and it's coating it in wax as we enter. Hello. Come on in. It's Apis, right? Hey, that's right. I don't want to bother you or nothing. No bother. You're in my shop. Wouldn't be a bother if I was bothered by people coming into my shop. Well, what can I get you? Not actually looking to buy right now. But do you happen to know if Franklin's in? Frank. I think he's in. Yeah, he said yesterday he didn't feel like opening. He's not doing well after the whole Sally thing. Did you know that they were dating? I did. Yeah. Must be sad for the guy. But no, I don't think he'll be opening today. He doesn't feel like talking to people. Right. But he is about. Have you seen him today? No, not today. You saw him yesterday though. I saw him yesterday morning. He came in to grab a couple of candles. You happen to have a spare key to his place? No? Why? He's a friend of mine and I just want to check on him. I don't think he wants to speak to anyone. Right. Is there anything else anything else you want to ask Jo or talk to her about? Did we ever decide if Sally was an undead or not? We asked Franklin that, and he was a little bit offended, but he said that she was just as much human as he was. How did Sally run so far for so fast for so long? That is a good question. Set fire to his house, see if he comes out. Candles. For whom? We're just worried about him. We want to see if we can help. I understand. I think it's a thing. It's the sort of thing where time will help, I think. Tell her to let him know we've stopped in to check on him. Could you just, if you do see him again, could you just let him know that Apis dropped by to check on him? I'm wanting to make sure that he's okay and to let him know that that we'll get through this. Yeah, I'll let him know. You have a little look around what's in the shop. You see that she mostly just stocks candles. There's a few. There's one shelf over on the shop window that has a bunch of like wax models and like things that she's whittled out of wax, but mostly just candles of various different sizes, shapes, various different colors, different what's the word? Inclusions, different ingredients used to make different smells and things. All right, somebody asked, is she telling the truth? So let's do an insight check on behalf of Apis. Hey, nat 20. Nat 20. GG Nightbot. We read her expression quite shrewdly as we're asking her everything that we're asking her. She seems to be straight up with us. We don't know her too well, so we don't know how to read her tells if she has some. The only thing that gives us reason to pause, reason to doubt that she may or not have been telling the truth, is when we asked her if she has a spare key to Franklin's place, and she paused and then said no. Why? And it seemed like maybe she's telling the truth, but more likely she does have some sort of key to his place and she just doesn't want to give it out to somebody that's essentially a stranger, that although she's heard that the rumours were not true about you, once you've been told rumors about somebody, even if you're then those rumors are later retracted, first impressions have still been set, and so she may not fully trust you. She doesn't really know you, and you've just walked in and asked for a key to Franklin's place. So there's a good chance that she does have a key and just didn't want to give it to you. But I think we wander out of the chandler's shop unless anybody else wants to ask her anything else. We wander out and we say, "Hey, Mel." And she comes on down. Yes? Franklin's door's not open and I'm worried. He's apparently just holed up in his house for a bit. Would you mind just checking the windows, see if you can actually see him? Yes, of course. And she bzzz up to the windows and she looks in the front window. She says, "The curtain is drawn," and then she up and over the top of the window and down the back of the house where we can't see her anymore. And then she comes back. Yes, I see him in there. He's sitting in the chair and he is reading a book. What book is he reading? I don't know. There's a book. Mel is a sentient bee, but she's still just an animal at the end of the day. She's not the smartest intelligence-wise. All right, just let's make it just a 2-minute poll. Just stay here or leave. What do we want? 51% of the vote wanted to stay here and get Franklin's attention. So this is why it's important to vote, because it comes down to one vote so many times. Now the method of how we're going to get his attention is: are we going to play the panpipes outside of his window? Are we going to throw rocks at his window? Are we going to try and break our way into his house? Are we just going to bang on the door? Or is there any other way of getting his attention? Shout, I suppose. What do you guys want to do? Panpipes. Always vote for panpipes. One of these days we'll play the panpipes and it'll actually be really good. For those who are new to the channel, Apis is proficient in panpipes, as you can see over there and under the tools tab. We are proficient in brewer's tools and panpipes. But every time that we have tried to play the panpipes in front of other company rather than on our own, Nightbot always nat 1s or 2 or 3, just something really small and low. We've got very bad luck with panpipe rolls, and so it's become somewhat canon that Apis has stage fright when playing the panpipes, and we always are just terrible at them. And then when we play the panpipes when we're alone, it's actually usually pretty good. It's like a 17 or something, and we're like, okay, we're actually proficient at the panpipes. But whenever we're in front of somebody, they're garbage. Alright, so we're going to play the panpipes with 51% of the vote. We go around the back of the house and we get the panpipes out and we begin to play. Was that worked? No. Panpipe check. There we go. 18. With an 18 panpipes, we're playing them how we want to play them, and so that means that if we're intentionally missing notes and making it bad so that he'll come to the window and see us, then that's what we're doing. We start playing the panpipes, and a moment later, there is the sound very subtly that we can hear from the upstairs window. There's a sound of a chair being shifted, and then there's footsteps on wood, and then sure enough we see his face come to the window, and he opens it wider than it was. It was just open a crack for ventilation, but he opens it wider and he sort of chuckles and puts his arms on the windowsill and leans out. Suppose you're getting better. It's not the worst I've ever heard from you. How you doing, Apis? You alright? What do we want to say to him? We're serenading him now, yeah. Keep playing. Finish off the little trill that we were doing. Just checking on you, Franklin. That's why we came to see you. I'm kind of doing shit, you know. I'm not gonna lie. It's tough. I'll get through it. Are you doing all right though? Do you want to talk about it? I can come up. No, I'm sorry. I don't want to be offensive or anything, but I just don't want to talk to people at the moment. I'd rather be alone and just with my thoughts and work this through. All right. I'm gonna be leaving town soon. For a couple of days, maybe a few days. So I just wanted to check that you're all right before I go. If there's anything I can do for you or get for you, just know that I'm here and I can help you out. I appreciate it, Apis, I do. That was your bee, wasn't it? Hey, there she is. Mel, come on over. And she comes over with you and hello. He doesn't understand her, but she says hello. Where are you going? I'm going to Fondirg, I think. Oh, is that right? Cool. Just to check it out, or just as a trip, really. What do you guys think? Would Apis tell Franklin the reason for the trip to Fondirg, knowing that Kathleen said that she didn't really want to worry people about the fact that they may be cut off from Fondirg right now? No. All right. So we don't say. We just say just as a trip. I've not been to Fondirg and I just want to. Do you want to come? He goes, nah, I appreciate it, but no, I shouldn't really be taking the day off at the moment. But I needed it, Yeah, you need some time alone. That's fine. Everybody understands. What you doing? Mel says you're reading. He goes, yeah, just reading, spending some time getting out of my own head into a book. What are you reading? I don't know really. It's a book that it's just a book, a story, a short story. I'm gonna make an insight check. He seems to. It's odd that he wouldn't know what he's reading, and from that it seems like he might be trying to hide what he's reading, or he might be trying to change the subject a little. He doesn't seem like the most proficient of liars. It's called So Your Ex is a Necromancer. Now what? Are we just going to ask him outright? You haven't been to Sally's place recently? He is our friend, remember, and he has just suffered a particularly nasty breakup, it seems. Do the books have pictures? He says, no, not this one. It's a storybook about a woman who falls in love with a guy. He's like a down to earth kind of sort, and she falls in love with him, and then they sort of go on an adventure together, and then it turns out later in the book that he's actually a prince, and obviously I'm spoiling it for you. I don't know if you'd ever read it, but it's quite a nice little story. It's quite it's mostly comedy more than anything else. It's like it's written in a funny kind of way. Have some tact. He's our friend. You wouldn't just blatantly accuse a friend of theft with nothing to go off. Yeah. Most people saying drop it. Tell him not to go after Sally. Just because I wouldn't feel bad. I wouldn't feel okay with myself if something happened while I was gone. I just want to be clear that you're not going to go after Sally without us, without the rest of us. Okay? And he goes, I know. I'm not stupid, Apis. Now I know you're not stupid, Franklin. I never meant to make it sound like you are. I'm just saying that emotions can make us do things. Just be very careful. What's it called? What? The book you're reading? He goes off away from the window and comes back, and it says he shows us the cover of it, and it's a picture of a woman and like a man in a woman's arms, being like dipped backwards, and he's the one being dipped. And he says it's just called Tom and Jane. Okay. Right. I cared about you. Thanks. I care about you as well, Apis. I I like it when you're around. It's good having you around the town. I know you have to disappear from time to time, but it's good when you're here. Right, I'll see you around then, eh? I'll be back in a few days, I'm sure. All right. And then he walks away from the window and closes it back to open like just a crack again. Mel. Yes? Is that the book that he was reading? Did you see it? She says, yes, I think that was the same book. So what now? To Edith's place. Should we go to Edith's place? Should we make tracks out of town? Do we want to go Edith? Alright. Edith is closest. Yeah. Alright. Most people say in Edith, so let's head on over to hers. So we head on over to Edith's place. First thing that we notice is that her shop is open, and the door is being held open by a door wedge. We wander in and there's no tring. We tring the bell with our hand instead. Tring. She is behind the desk, talking with who would be there. Let's see. Let's say. Nope, not Sally. She is. Oh, she'd be with Toria, of course. Yeah, Toria's been staying with Edith. So in the shop is Edith and our recent acquaintance Toria, who has been helping Edith be nursed back to health, but also learning from her at the same time. We walk in and they notice us walk in and greet us. And what would you like to say to them? Edith looks a lot more her usual self. She looks like she's still a frail old lady, but she's a naturally frail old lady rather than a supernaturally frail old lady. She's quite short and hunched over, about 5 foot tall. What up, bitches? I don't think so, Jay Spates. But she's looking well. She's on her feet and she's using some pots and pans on the desk, and she's like seemingly showing Toria something as we walk in. And just as we walk in, she's doing like pouring something from a smaller vial into the pot in like a circular fashion. We walk in and she says, "Oh, hello, Apis. How you going?" And she walks over. "Hello." She walks over and puts her arms out. And in the usual fashion, we accept that this is how she greets people. We're not going to call her out on the fact that you don't really like personal people getting into your personal space so much. But she gives us a hug around the. Oh, I was going to say around the waist, but we're a dwarf, so we're about her height, thereabouts. She's actually a little bit taller than us. You look much better, Edith. Oh, thank you for saying so. I'm feeling a lot better, a lot better. Feeling almost right as rain, in fact. Give her a hug. How's it going, Toria? Good, thank you, Apis. It's good to see you still around. I wondered if you'd left. No, I've been on Jack Creed's farm just because just been checking it out, just chilling a little bit, just taking some time, practicing my bow and arrow. I think I'm getting better at it. How's it going here? It's going really well. Edith's been telling me all sorts of stuff. I'm glad she's made a full recovery because she's got a lot more to teach me. Creed's farm's doing well. It's still up and active. The bees are continuing their thing. I don't know if bees like need. Hey Mel, the bees need do we need someone there to like do something for them, like take the honey or something? She says no, they will only keep producing it whenever you keep taking it. As soon as they've got as much as they need, we do not just keep producing regardless. All right, well that's good then. So they're not like under any like danger of being neglected. Well, if nobody looks after them for a while, then they might move on. But for now they are fine. They will continue to grow. The hives will continue to grow, and eventually another queen will come about that we do not have a house for. And then if there is no bee house, then they will have to move on. Right. Well, I'm sure by that time we'll hopefully have a new owner for the farm. We say pointedly towards Toria, and she says, "We'll see." All right. So we're with Edith and Toria in the apothecary shop. What do you guys want to do? What do you want to ask them about or talk about? It seems like Toria is learning well from Edith at this stage. So what you're learning today then? She's teaching me about the basics of how to create an oil, a sort of a tincture, an oil that can be spread upon a person to, what is it, Edith? Makes them greased up or something? Yes, it's known as the oil of slipperiness, and it's quite a tough one, but once you can manage it, it can help sort of grease you up, make it harder to be held onto if somebody was to try and grab you or attack you in that sort of a way. It takes a little bit to get it off again, but it can be useful for adventurers. Come on over, Apis, I'll show you. She wanders over back to the desk that she was using. She'll rest another 3 days and level up. Yeah, not how that works. Can we offload the brewer's kit onto Toria? Yeah, we could do if we wanted to. If you want to get rid of that brewer's kit so it's not taking up quite as much of your inventory down there, you can get rid. You've never actually used it yet in the in all the time that we've been playing this. Let's give it to her. Can we have it? It's probably not. She's probably not going to have one ready for a while, Wraith. She's still teaching her the basics of it, and it's probably not going to be any good when it's actually finished. We start asking her about the ins and outs of this oil of slipperiness, just for interest sake, for the sake of small talk. And she says, "Oh well, when it's done, it makes like a thick black sort of goo. It's quite heavy in the container, and it makes you think like it wouldn't move very. It's like tar almost when it's in the vial or the jar. But as soon as you go to pour it, whoosh, it suddenly pours like smoother than water. It is. You can very quickly cover it over someone of your sort of size or Toria's sort of size, and it goes all over your equipment and everything. You just kind of pour it over, and it pours over everything you're wearing. It takes about 10 minutes to apply it totally, to make sure that everything's properly applied, and then you gain the effects of. She wouldn't say gain the effect of. Then you can, for about the next 8 hours or so, until it kind of evaporates and wanders off, then you can. It's easier for you to get out of grapples or ropes or things that are trying to grab a hold of you. It's much easier for you to slip out of their grasp. In mechanical terms, it offers you the freedom of movement spell for the next 8 hours, which is you touch a willing creature, for the duration, the movement is unaffected by difficult terrain. Spells of other magical effects can neither reduce the target's speed nor cause them to be paralyzed or restrained. And the target can spend 5 feet of movement to automatically escape from non-magical restraints, such as manacles or a creature that's got its grappled. So it helps you keep your movement unbounded. Or if you pour it on the ground instead, it can make a sort of a greasy patch that's easier for people to slip over. Makes if you're running away from something and you pour that on the ground behind you, they'll slip. So it's a pretty useful little thing to make, but it takes a little while to. I don't think this batch will come out actually worth anything, as I'm taking too long to actually explain things. When you're actually creating the potion or the oils and stuff, then timing is everything, and you have to make sure you're stirring it at the right times and things like that. So I don't think this one will actually work, but it's good for like an explanation more than anything. All right, so who wants to offload the brewer's kit to Toria, who is going to likely be a town brewer? Who wants to give Toria the brewer's kit? Yes or no? All right, most people are saying yes, not everybody, but most of Apis' synapses are saying that we should give Toria the brewer's kit. Can we actually use it? Yes, you can see over there we are proficient in brewer's tools. So if we wanted to brew some beer or distill some water, we can. But we've so far never used it, and it's just taken up a big lump of our inventory below us here. I think if we do give her it, then as Wraith says, we'll just say, "Can you hold on to this for us?" She can use it in our absence, but it keeps us from having to lug it around everywhere we're going. All right. Most people are saying yes, give it to her. Nobody's really opposed in that sense, so we will do so. We say, speaking of brewing and all of this stuff, I've actually got a brewer's kit on me, and it's a little bit big and bulky and cumbersome, and it takes up a lot of my inventory, and I don't actually use it when I'm out and about all that much. I think I'm going to be around Shadridge for a little while longer, just in and about, not every day, but I'm going to be in the area for a little while, I think. Would you mind holding on to this for me, Toria? Holding on to what? Sorry? My brewer's kit. Would you mind holding on to it? You can use it while I'm in my absence. You can. I figured it will help with you. And Edith goes, "Oh, is it? Let me see it. Is it a good one?" And we get it all out and start to set it up, and she goes, "Oh, this is a good one. This is a good brewer's kit. Is this? I used to have one like this. Oh, you don't want a conical flask like that? No. No. If you're wanting to be I suppose it might be different because you'd be brewing beer with it, wouldn't you? I'm coming at it from a potions sort of point of view, but yeah, if you're brewing beer with it, maybe you do want something more like that. But if you're going to be using it for potions, you want something more like this, love." And she goes off and gets something from her kitchen shelves and comes out, "Oh, this is more for your potions. You want something of a little bit more like this sort of shape. You see how it's more of an oval bottom to it? Then it means that the swirl it gets kind of disturbed in the starts going into much too much detail than you actually asked for." But Toria sort of interrupts and says, "Yeah, I'll hold on to that for you. Right, all right. Thank you. I'll grab it back from you when I need it." And with that, we have freed up some space in our inventory. I'll tell you what. You hold on to that, and in return, if you make anything worth having from it, like if the first potions you're making, if you would otherwise throw them away, put them in a little vial, and I'll take them. I want to see what you're making. She goes, if you want the very first potions I make, you'd need a strong stomach. I might be making poisons at this stage." And he says, "I would never let you poison Apis. I know the difference between poisons and potions these days. I've been doing it long enough, love." Smile affectionately at Edith. I love Edith so much. She's the best. And she was so close to dying, man. Oh, so close to dying. If you'd have gone anywhere else, there were so many different decisions that could have ended up in Edith being... I had actually not intended for, I don't have intentions, I have plans, and I had expected for Edith to die. And you managed to save her. Well done you. You didn't manage to save Paul though. It was kind of the opposite. I was expecting that you wouldn't save Edith, and then after noticing that Edith had died and there was something going on in town, you'd managed to save Paul. But you managed to save the other one. We do have poison resistance as a dwarf, actually, so we could be their tester. See, I got a strong stomach, even if you did try and poison me. As dwarves, we can handle a lot more. And Edith goes, "Oh, that's right. Maybe we've got a new tester." I'm only joking. We wouldn't test things on you. We were obsessed with checking on Edith. You certainly were. And then not at all obsessed with checking on Paul, despite me saying several times that he was an elderly man that was starting to feel weak. You were like, "Elderly man, get out of here. Elderly apothecary lady, that's the one we want to save." All right, so we've offloaded our brewer's kit. We have secured some temperamental experimental potions potentially in the future, when Toria has started to practice making potions. What do we want to do? Where to from here? Mosh is still on the Colton's farm. That's about a three-quarter of an hour walk away. Kathleen hasn't made it urgent for you to go and check out this supply situation, so you could go today or tomorrow. She didn't say you need to go today. Just that she'd rather sooner rather than later. Let's make tracks. Shall we go? Is there anything else that you want to do before we go? Just those 4 options. Visit Mosh, acquire a small cart, get more arrows, tell Kathleen we're ready. Alright, so with 39% of the vote, 39% getting a majority means that there's quite a lot of dissent among the crowd. But yes, 39% is the majority, so we get... we decide to go tell Kathleen that we're ready. We look at our quiver and we think about getting more arrows. With 27% of the vote, we think maybe we need more arrows, but we realise that we've got 17 arrows and we don't use them all that much, and we can always try and get them back or whittle more on the way if we really need to. 24%, about a quarter of Apis' mind decides that they want to go and visit Mosh, but then realises that's like an hour and a half round trip at least, just to walk out to the forest, walk out to the farm. Find out that he's too busy to come with us and then come back. Do we really need to see him that much? We're in two minds about it. Maybe we do, maybe we don't. But nah, I think it's time that we're ready. A small portion of Apis' mind decides that they want to get a cart, but then Apis, realising that they're much faster without a cart, thinks, nah, we don't really need it. We can still, if something is attacking messages and supplies and things, then they're going to attack us on horseback whether we've got a cart or not, Apis thinks. So we head back to Kathleen across the town. She's no longer with the building that's being raised. She's making her way across the town from that building site towards the mayor's house. When we intercept her and say, Kathleen, just letting you know I'm ready to go when you are. She goes, oh, wonderful. Meet me back over at Paul's house in about 15 minutes then. I just need to pop in and tell Jackson something. But yeah, I'll be over at Paul's house in about 15 minutes, and I'll write you the notes that you need and whatnot, and get you his horse and everything ready. You can if you find his horse and you're there before me, you can start to saddle it up and stuff. You won't miss it. It's the old boy that's chained up in the barn. Right, yeah. And so we leave her to her devices and head off towards Paul's place, Paul's old farm. We borrow some armor from Kathleen for the mission. We can try. We can ask if she's got something. The barracks were all over there, but they burned down. I don't always count arrows, really. Especially if it's in a situation where whenever you're fighting, you're going to pick them up again at the end of the fight anyway. I just won't worry about it. If you're firing arrows into a crevasse, if you're like lighting one and using it to see where you're going, then maybe I'll remember to mark one off. But I don't always remember the minutiae of that sort of inventory management. So we walk about 5-10 minutes out of town towards Paul's house. We see the ashen ruins of the once barn/barracks, and we see the house is in use. The door is open, and would the door be open? Yeah, the door would be open, and it seems like it's in use as the makeshift barracks in the meantime. We wander in. We find some parchment and we write a little note to Mosh saying exactly that. Understand that you want to make up for digressions, for digressions, for past. You're making up for past discretions. But if you ever want a break, you're welcome to find us. We're sure you'll know how to find us with your tracking skills. We're happy to have you around as much or as little as you need. Indiscretions, that's what I was trying to... In your past indiscretions. Transgressions. I was finding a word between... I was like... Disgressions is not a word, but there was a G in there somewhere. Transgressions and indiscretions. Man, English is wonderful, but confusing sometimes. Intransgressions. Making up for your intransgressions. We leave him this little note, and then we fold it up a couple of times and just write Mosh on the front. And then we've got that to give to Kathleen, and just about the time that we've finished writing this thing, we start heading out towards the barn, and sheer indigestions, making up for past indigestions. We make our way out to the barn, and Kathleen's arriving at the farm at the same time. So we pause by the entrance and wait for her to walk in. She says, "You get a start on saddling up his horse," and she opens the barn door and points it out to you. It's an old looking grey and white kind of coat. It's got the saddle and the muzzle bag and all sorts of the feed bag and stuff, all just in the same sort of area of the barn at the back. Just you get started with the saddlebags and things, and I'll start writing you the notes that we need. Before she leaves, just while we're talking about notes, and before I forget, I've written this for Mosh. If you wouldn't mind making sure that he gets that, please. And she says, "Oh yeah, of course." And she takes it, pops it in her pocket. So it takes us about 10 minutes to saddle up this horse, and she arrives back, and she's got a couple of notes for us. She hands them to us. They seem to be sealed with wax seal of the Knights of Kevostna symbol. Which, incidentally, in case anybody's new or I haven't described it before, it's a kite shield with a crossed sword and mace, and that's stamped onto these two letters. One of which is an open letter, and the wax seal is just on the bottom as like a stamp of authority, essentially. And one of them is actually closed up letter with the seal on the top. She says this one was written for the head of the Knights of Kevostna in Fondirg. If you can hand that to anyone in the Temple of the Knights. And this one is just a little symbol to say that you are working on authority of the Knights of Kevostna here in Shadridge, although you have no knight number yourself yet, she says with a smile and a sort of a half sly wink. Right, thank you very much for that. I was just wondering while I was saddling this horse up, in case there is something dangerous that's attacking or anything, you don't happen to have any like better armor for me to wear? And she says, I'm afraid not. No, we did have one set of studded leather armor that might have fit you, but it was kept with the rest of the crates in the barracks before it burned down. I could possibly get you a discount at Carl's if you're willing to stick around and get him to make you something. Do you wear metal armor? Not metal so much for me, but like if I got some metal plates attached to my leather armor, maybe, or some studs or something that would help. I do know that he will be able to improve the armor that you currently wear, but it'll take him some time, and he's currently working on the farrier's shop. He's a little overworked doing farrier work as well as fletching and blacksmithing, and so he's currently working on the new farrier shop, which is the one that we were building when you arrived. No time now. Remember, Rob keeps things ticking. Correct. The clock keeps going whenever you're doing other things. There's always things going. That's why I keep a timeline. What about a shield we could borrow? If you did wear a shield, Sparrow, you wouldn't be able to use a bow and arrow. Bow and arrows use two hands. Alright, so with that, it seems like she doesn't have any armor for us, so we get ready to go. It's probably about midday at this stage, so it's up to you whether you want. Like, I think Apis would probably be hungry, so you sit and have some rations first. Chuck down some dried goods, dry foods, some jerky and nuts and seeds and things, some dried fruit. And then we head on out. We say thank you very much for the thing. Is that all she was going to give us? She gave us a letter to explain everything to the knights, and then she gave us like a symbol that we can give to anyone who questions our authority. I don't believe there's anything else, right? We didn't before we headed out. Did we want to visit the stash and get any more gold, in case there's things to buy in Fondirg that we wanted gold for? Paul's daughter, yes, that's right. She was going to give us something to explain to Paul's daughter. So in that time, just quick retcon. In that time, she would have also written us another note. This one would also be sealed with a wax seal, and it says to Melissa on the front. And she says, "This one is a personal note from me to Paul's daughter. I don't know her well, but he talked about her often, and I think it's important that she knows from me before hearing it from anyone else. if you head to the Knights of Kevostna, they'll be able to tell you where she lives. I think she's actually joined the Knights recently herself. I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure about that, but they'll be able to tell you where she lives regardless. So there you go then. So we, with that in mind, we head on out, get ourselves up onto the horse. We gesture Mel to come on and join us. She comes on over as well, and we set off out of town. Let me show you the map that we're using. If I go to share screen, this is the map that we're on. We have, is there a reason this is so small? Let's make that larger so you can see more of it. Don't know why it's so small. That's what she said. Wait, crap. Then, boop. So this is Shadridge, this is where we are. We are setting off southwest of Shadridge, along this ridge here, along this sort of shaded ridge of the mountains. Until she said we get, after about a day's journey, this is not to scale, I guess, because this would not be a day's journey away. This is the beginning of where it starts to, the wood starts to die. We've set off towards the southwest, and we're told that after about a day's journey southwest, we start to go through a bit of a deserty kind of area, and at the edge of the desert there's kind of a small wooded area of dead trees. After you've passed the area of dead trees, that's when there's a path actually starts, a dirt path, but a path nonetheless. That's actually, the journey from there is a little easier, and it's about a day's journey, and you'll make it to Fondirg. So that's what we're expecting. Apis sets off just after lunch, so keeping in mind that the edge of the trees is about at the halfway point of the edge of the trees is the halfway point of the journey, which should take about a day on horseback. Did I say southeast? I meant southwest. I sometimes get my cardinal directions the wrong way around. Go by the map rather than what I say. Going to the southwest, we are heading out for about half a day's journey left on horseback, which will get us to about the tree line. We stop maybe a couple hours into the walk when we get to sort of maybe the edge of this this mountain ridge, and it starts to become more hills and plains. And already we can see that it's largely desertified. It's more savanna kind of terrain than actual desert. There's very hardy kind of gorse bushes around and things, but not much in the way of woods or trees for useful materials for a frontier town. Hence why Shadridge went all the way through that and into where the Fairwoods began, in order to send back materials, resources to Fondirg. Stopping for a bit of lunch, more of our rations and things. We could go hunting. Yeah, we are very proficient at hunting, so we could find some small wildlife. Yeah, maybe there's a wild goat that we see and take a shot. With our +7 ranger skill, we can definitely hunt down some sort of smaller wildlife that would live out in such a harsh terrain. So we stop for our dinner, and it's getting a bit late, but we know we need to keep pressing on. So we continue on for another couple of hours until eventually we reach the edge of this horrible kind of desertified area, and we can see coming up ahead of us a small wooded area of dead trees. Most of them, much like what you can see here, most of them are still standing. They haven't been felled, but they have just seemingly died. They no longer have the leaves on the trees. We're like a month into spring at this point, so it should definitely have some sort of budding leaves and whatnot. If it was a deciduous tree, kind of, it's deciduous. Yeah, deciduous trees are the ones that lose their leaves, isn't it? So they should be getting their leaves and their berries and their flowers back, but they're not. It seems like they're very much dead trees. We get to the edge of it, and we feel like, as a ranger proficient in forests, it feels like we are in a forest, right, at this stage. But we're only half of the way to Fondirg, and it's now nightfall, or at least evening. It's now twilight. So we're going to have to set up camp or ride through the night. Which would you prefer to do? Are the trees petrified? So as we sort of wander over to them, no, it doesn't seem like they are petrified. It seems like they are. We wander over to the nearest tree as we arrive, and without even touching it, as a ranger, we recognise rotten wood when we see it, and it is falling apart. It seems like perhaps they've got termite problems. Camp for the night, camp for the night, camp for the night. If we set up a camp, we'd have a few hours of downtime before we actually get tired, but then we'd be able to go to sleep and sleep through till the morning. Set up a camp, but Dazel says no fire. All right. So we get off the horse. We acknowledge that this horse is an old boy, and probably for the best that we don't push him too long anyway. We've already been riding about 4 or 5 hours. So we get off. We tie the horse's reins loosely around a nearby low hanging branch that's looks like it's relatively stable. We give it a bit of a tug, and although it is rotting wood, it's still pretty strong. And then we ask Mel. Mel's militia should be extra strong here. Yeah, probably. Spells first. Check what's around. Yeah, we could do a spell to check what's around us if we wanted to use our primeval awareness. We could definitely do that, and the range would be slightly larger because of the nature of us being in a forest. Technically, it's a very small forest though. Camp sounds good. We could read our books. Yes, we could read our books. So in our inventory, let me take us back to the main page. You can see below me we have a couple of books. One is sort of an introduction to herbalism, how to recognize certain plants and how to recognize certain roots and weeds and algae and all kinds of stuff like that, and a very brief introduction to what each of those algae and roots and things are useful for in medicine and in potion making. And then the other one is an introduction to potion making specifically, which is more about how to prepare the bases of various different potions. It has a couple of different sort of recipes, almost ingredients that you would need for particular potions, but not the recipes for actually making them. Just the ingredient list of what sort of ingredients you need for making particular potions. So we get off the horse, we tie it up. What are we going to do to set up a camp if we don't want a fire? What do you guys think? Are you guys doing some you want to do a perception check, Chronoterra? We absolutely can. Let's have a look. It's currently it's currently about twilight, so the sun has just gone down over the horizon and it's light enough to be able to see, but we know that it's going to get dark in about half an hour to an hour's time. How is the moon? Tomorrow night will be the waning quarter, so we're getting a lot less light now. We're almost down to the a new moon in just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days time. It'll be a new moon, so there's not a lot of night light. So as a dwarf we have dark vision, but if we want to be able to see enough to read, we'll probably need to have some sort of a torch or a light or something. Any way to set up traps around the camp? Yeah, if you can think of any way to set up a trap, freeze a night, you can let me know. Why don't we want a fire? Maybe you do. Just that one synapse of Apis' mind said, maybe don't light a fire. Let's first make a general perception check to see sort of the general idea of the area. 13. With a 13 perception, just as a general first gist of the area, we don't see anything moving around in the forests. And then we don't see anything moving about. We don't see any people. There's nobody that's clearly hiding from us. If they are hiding, then they're doing a good job of it. It doesn't look like the sort of place where a lot of life would happen. There would be some sort of lives. There'd be decomposers living here, but we don't see anything with a 13 perception. Magic rope, make ourselves a hammock in a big tree. We could do it. I think that would be maybe stretching the limits of what this magic rope can do. We could use a rope and magic rope to make a trip hazard around the camp. Yeah, we could do that. Should we do that, everybody? We've also got caltrops. We could use the net as a hammock. There we go. We've got a net and a magic rope. We could use the net and the magic rope between the two of them to make a hammock for sure. Do that. All right. Thumbs up if you want to use the caltrops in an area of the forest somewhere. The bag of caltrops that you have is sufficient to make a 5 by 5, so 1 square of the board. Very difficult terrain. Or you can spread them over a 10 by 10. It's not as difficult terrain, but you're covering more area. You're more likely to catch somebody. You can regather them, yeah. It'll just take time in the morning, because if you're spreading them across a forest floor, you're going to maybe lose a few. Cool, so we are in agreement that we're going to use the caltrops. Now, shall we say, put a yes if you want to make a hammock using a net and magic rope. Put a no if you want to sleep on the ground in a on your bedroll instead. Most people are saying around about the same, somewhere between 10 and 12 feet. So we'll go about 10 feet off the ground, 8 feet, let's say, compromise. Apis finds a couple of trees that are close enough together. They're both dead, obviously, and the bark is all torn off, and Apis tears some off to sort of get a better idea of what how safe these trees are. And sure enough, as soon as Apis tears them off, there's a whole bunch of termites and skittling creatures move around, and okay, yeah, maybe not that. Moves around till they find another tree. This one's pretty solid, and most of the bark's already gone from it. It seems like, yeah, this one will do. We get the rope out, we tie it, we sort of weave it through one edge of the net, and then we tell the rope, tie to that tree, and we give it the command in Elvish for grapple or whatever it is, and it shoots out and ties around the tree. And we're like, yeah, that's about the right height up. And we do it the other side, we weave it down the other side of the hammock and tie to that tree, and it does the same thing. And before we know it, we've got a net that's above head height. Apis is about 4 to 5 feet tall. I think about 4.5-ish is how I imagine them. And so this bedroll is about 8 feet off the ground now by the time we've finished with our magic rope. And we're going to have to climb up into it, but it shouldn't be too hard. We're a ranger and we're proficient in forests, so we know how to climb trees. Decoy with the bedroll, that sounds like a good idea. And then we've got 50 foot of regular rope that's not magic, that we can make a trip line and caltrops. So that's a good idea. So we'll do that. We take out a bedroll. Where are we putting the decoy? Are we putting it on the ground, like near us, so that they're coming in looking at the ground and missing the fact that we're up here? Attach something loud to the tripwire, like our... what would it be? We don't have any like metal pots and pans. Ironically, our brewer kit would have had something loud in it, I'm sure. Metal pots and pans. Not nearby, like 10 feet away, 50 feet away. How far away are we putting this decoy? About 10 feet away. Near the horse, away from us. Just inside of the caltrops. The next tree over. Okay, so we'll go about 10 feet away to the next tree over. A little bit more clear, a little bit more like out in the open. We lay out our bedroll and we take have we got anything we can stuff into it? Not really. Our herbalism kit, just like chuck our bag underneath it or something. And then we around that about 4 inches off the ground, just enough to maybe 5 inches off the ground, somewhere around there. We string out the rope. And then we try and like cover it over with a bit of dead leaves and stuff. There's a whole bunch of rotting refuse around the place that's mostly dusty and just the cellulose that's left. No actual like organic material so much. We then lay out the caltrops on the inside of that rope, between the rope and the bedroll, so that if somebody's like sneaking up to attack the bedroll in the night, they'll trip over the rope into the caltrops, hopefully. And then we'll be alerted by the noise that makes, because they're only 10 feet away from us. And once that's all laid out, it takes us about half hour to an hour to finish all of that up. What are we going to do without the rest of our time? We've got about 3 hours, 2 to 3 hours of the day left, even though it's early night. We've probably got a couple hours before we start to feel properly tired. Make our cloak match the colour of the night sky and lay it on the bottom of the hammock. Ooh, what a clever idea, Sparrow. Well done. I mean, you are only 8 feet off the ground, so like that's as high as I can reach. It's not like they might walk up underneath it and look up and it might help, but also it will be on the bottom of the hammock, and then the hammock will be underneath that, so you'll still see the rope. You'll still see the net, but it just might look like the net will not have anything in it. So It may work, may help a little, and can't hurt. I mean, you're not doing anything else with the cloak. So Apis uses the cloak that's attached to their shoulders that they can. It's a magic cloak that they can turn into making look like anything they want. They look up at the night sky. They see that it's a little bit cloudy, and so they make like a cloudy sort of almost starry cloudy pattern on the inside of the cloak, just mostly really dark navy blue with some swirly grey throughout it, and uses that to lay it on the inside of the net. Very clever sparrow. In fact, I really like that. I'm going to give you inspiration for thinking so smart. Inspiration. All right, primeval awareness. Should we use primeval awareness? We've got 3 spell slots that we can use if you want to use one. You'll get them back on a long rest, which you'll hopefully be about to get. All right, people saying yes for the most part. There's a couple of dissenting voices, but most people saying yes, we need to do primeval awareness. Primeval awareness is a ranger's ability to tap into nature around them and use that nature to ascertain whether there are certain creatures within a certain radius of them, just from nature telling them yes or no. For 1 minute per level of the spell, at this level Apis only has level 1 spells, they can sense whether the following types of creatures are present within 1 mile of them, or, since you're in your favoured terrain, up to 6 miles. Aberrations, celestials, dragons, elementals, fae, fiends, and undead. You're going to choose a list of those things. So you choose as many or as few of those things as you want. The more you choose, the more information you're going to get, but that's not always a good thing because that information might be white noise. Like if you choose all of them, and you say within 6 miles, and you say, are there aberrations, celestials, dragons, elemental, fae, fiends, or undead within 6 miles of me? And then the answer comes back, yes. You don't necessarily know anything now. You don't know if it's dragons or fae or fiends or a mixture of them. You don't know if they're 6 miles away or next door. You've got to take into account what information you're actually interested in knowing. The size of the forest that you're currently in is less than a mile anyway in each dimension. So you'll only be able to search up to a mile radius of where you are. All right, let's roll it. FNG Snafu, are you still in the chat? Sweet, awesome. So which of these creatures do you want to know about? Fiends and undead, 500 meter radius. Awesome. Good. So fiends and undead, 500 meter radius. Fiends and undead. And they're going to be, it's 500 meters above, 500 meters below, and 500 meters around as well. Okay, cool. So tapping in to our connection to nature, we look around us, we take in the plant life that was once here. We think about what sort of trees these might once have been. We look down at the forest floor and we can see the bare dirt and roots in a once living forest. We think about the forest, the weeds that would have been living hardly in here. We think about the fact that they were covered up by these dead leaves that dropped off and have now just turned into almost brittle, almost ash-like brittle nature to the remainder of the undergrowth. Cracks underfoot quite a lot. You think about the wider growth, about where this particular forest might have got its water from in such an arid place. Where would it got its water from? You sort of your awareness seeps out of you and into the surroundings in the forest. You in particular start to focus in on the feeling you get when you think about undead. The sort of the chilled uneasiness that you get from knowing that something that was once living is died and then returned to a semblance of living. You don't sense any sort of feeling like that coming back to you from anywhere within a 500 meter radius of you. You focus instead on the feelings you get when you consider stories of the fiends, the devils and demons from the lower planes, the sense of dread that you feel, the sense of deep deep set uneasiness that comes in like a solid pit in your stomach. You don't feel it. You're not feeling that from anywhere around you. 500 meter radius, it seems like nature is telling you there are no fiends or undead. Your awareness comes back to yourself. Your consciousness returns to Apis' mortal body. What do you guys want to do now? Do you want to start reading? Sleep? Start rolling those dice? We've got some dice still that we could roll if we want to. I know certain parts of Apis are really loath to start rolling those dice before we know what they do. But they are a divination tool, so they may do something good for us. They just may have a cost that we don't know about yet. All right, let's no dice. Let's make a poll because a few people are in different minds about what to do now. What now? Read one of the books. Roll the dice. Roll the dice. Practice panpipes. Practice panpipes. What else was there? Just try and sleep. This time it's like getting dark. It's like the last sort of ounces of twilight, what would be called nautical twilight. We could try and cast Primeval Awareness again if we really wanted to search for something else. I'll go Primeval Awareness as the last choice. We've still got 2 more spell slots, so if we wanted to cast it twice more, we could. We would just be leaving ourselves without any spell slots before the long night. We stopped to eat before it got dark. We had our final meal of the day when we caught a wild goat. Hide in the hammock and read until it's dark. We could definitely do that. It is already pretty dark. It's nautical twilight, which is the last stage of twilight before true night, from memory. 3 stages of twilight. There's like city twilight. I can't remember what the word for that one is. Civilized twilight. Some other kind of twilight that I can't remember. Country twilight, and then nautical twilight, and then full night. If we play the panpipes in a dead forest bad enough, I'm sure we'll summon a blight or something. Yeah, maybe. This is nice. I enjoy Twitch Tales. I'm glad I've got 87 people that just like turn up to just tell a story with me. It's cool. Civil twilight, that's the word. Civil twilight, nautical, and it's astronautical is actually after nautical. I stand corrected. Astronomical twilight. Oh, okay. You love Twitch Tales. Good. I enjoy Twitch Tales too. I like the story we're telling. I know it's a little slow. Like we don't get through as much every week as we could, but it's enjoyable. I like the story we're telling. I like the characters and things. I like having you guys here. I like seeing which decisions you guys make as a group, as a collective, and seeing which way the story goes when it could go various different manners. With 58% of the vote, we're going to read one of the books. So is it going to be the potions book or the herbalism book? The plant book, the plant book, the plant book, the herbalism, potions, herbalism, both. We should read them both at the same time, Belmont. Thankfully, we've got dark vision, so we can still see without lighting a torch. It's just going to be a bit straining on the eyes, I think. Herbalism. All right, most of the people saying herbalism, more practical for us currently in our situation out in the wilderness. Makes sense. So Apis clambers up the tree, unencumbered by the bag that is now over in the bedroll, but still wearing the leather armor. With light armor, you can sleep in it without disadvantage or anything. So I imagine Apis wouldn't be silly enough to take their armor off before they go to sleep. And they clamber up into the hammock. I'm going to make a dex check to see if you actually manage to get into this hammock easily enough, because getting into a hammock is hard at the best of times. Thankfully, we've got dex +2 recently. So 21. Yeah, we managed with our acrobatics. We managed to clamber into this thing, do a little forward roll into the hammock lengthways rather than sideways. You have to get into a hammock kind of along its length so it doesn't rock too much as you're trying to get into it. We get into it, we peer over the side and realise, yep, if we fall out of this thing, we're probably taking a little bit of bludgeoning damage because we're almost 10 feet up. And there's not a lot of forest undergrowth to soften our blow. But we've got our book out, we've got our herbalism book, and we start to leaf through it. Mel comes buzzing over and lands and are we done for the night, Apis? Are we going to try and sleep? I think so, Mel. I've just set up some things over here, and you explained to Mel what the situation was. You probably explained it while you were doing it. If you want to buzz around the place, you can be wherever you want. I'll just ask you try and be a little bit quiet. We're trying to not draw attention to ourselves being here right now because we're not sure if there's something in the area. I'll stay awake for a little while, so you can rest, you can sleep. I'll just be reading for a bit. Very well, I'll find a tall tree that I can sleep in instead. Just be wherever you want. Ha. So she goes off, buzzes up into a tree nearby, and rests in the taller branches. You hear a few of the branches snap off as she lands her weight on them. It seems like they're very brittle the higher up the tree you go. This part of Apis wonders how soft Mel is. I don't think she's like a soft dog or a cat or something. It's much more like a pig or a cow or something. If you've ever stroked a farm animal and they've got quite coarse fur, her hairs would be very spiky kind of fur. I think almost like a stubbly beard. How big is she? She's the size of a potbelly pig. So we continue reading this book on herbalism. I'm going to roll an intelligence check, just straight intelligence check to see how well we're doing. Actually, no, make it a nature check. Hey, nat 20. So we're lying in the hammock. It's late at night. It's almost too dark to read, even with our dark vision. So we're flicking through the book. We're taking in quite a lot of the knowledge. That was why I asked for a nature check. I wanted to see how much of this we're actually taking in. So next time we come across something that's relatively straightforward or simple with herbalism, I might give us advantage on the check. We find ourselves drifting, and Apis finds like the eyelids drooping. It's getting heavier. It's getting a little bit chilly. It's late in spring. You're in the sort of You're in the last week of the first month of spring, so it's still relatively chilly. So we put the book down next to us in the hammock, and we pull up our blanket, and we try and drift off, just listening to the sounds of the breeze whistling through the dead tree branches of this dead forest that we found ourselves in. Occasionally we hear a zzz, zzz, zzz of our bee companion up in the nearby branches. A moment later we hear, and then we think it's in our dream. We're kind of half awake, and there's a, and we're thinking, what's that? And listening harder, it sounds like crunching decayed leaves and things. There's something, and we realise, oh, there's something close. We sort of glance over the edge to where our decoy bedroll was on the ground nearby the hammock. Nothing's there yet. Through the darkness, we realised that it's a lot darker than when we started going to sleep, so we must have been asleep for about an hour or so. We can't see anything, and then we see a gleam of what very little moonlight that there is when the cloud shifts. we see this small sliver of about a quarter of the moon that's left. It bounces off of the reflective sort of carapace of a gigantic termite, probably about the size of a Great Dane, and it is crunching its way through the forest nearby where our camp is set up, but it's not coming for us. It's not coming our way directly. We stay silent and watch. The clouds shift again and cover up the moon, and it's harder to see now, but we can tell that there is a giant termite. It seems to be going away from the horse, though. We get closer. It gets closer and closer to our trees, but as it gets towards the base of it, it seems to continue past and walks further down into this dead forest. It seems to stop at trees nearby and almost sniff. And then it continues on past the next tree and stops at the next one. It does this about 3 more times before it seems to stop at a tree, and its mandibles start to and it starts that same sound that we heard before as it scratches and chomps and crunches at the dying bark of this tree. We just sit there in silence in our hammock, and then feeling a little bit creepy, a little bit creeped out, we sort of glance over towards the tree that we're currently attached to, and we see that sure enough there are quite a few termites on this dead tree that we're in. And we look down onto our blanket, and we can see that there's a few termites in the blanket with us now, in this hammock that we've set up. There's a couple more that are walking their way along the magic rope that is used to keep us up in this hammock. Not the nicest place to sleep, but it seems like we're not in any immediate danger. What do you guys want to do? Go back to sleep or move on? You've been asleep for about an hour, which would be enough for a short rest. It's still this side of midnight. Go back to sleep. Put a thumbs up or a yay or a yes or something in the chat. Some sort of emote to say yes. Go back to sleep. No, move on or get out of here. If you move on or get out of here and you don't find another place to sleep, it's likely that you're going to get a point of exhaustion. Mel, you can command bugs. Can you gently move them away from us without pissing them off? Genius idea, Sparrow. We do have a giant bee who has a way with nearby animals. One thing she can do per day, everybody who's new. One thing that our giant bee companion can do is to command a swarm of nearby biting insects to come and fight for her. That is a very good idea, Sparrow. If I hadn't given you inspiration already, I would have given you it for that. Well done. You're on fire tonight. So most people are saying yes, go to sleep, go back to sleep here. But Fancy and others are saying like at least try and get rid of these termites that are in bed with us. And thinking about it in the moment, we think these are a lot like the biting and stinging insects that Mel commands. So we sort of wait for the huge one to have wandered off into the forest, and then we get a little pick up a termite and throw it at Mel. It gets her attention eventually. She kind of wanders on down to us. Yes, Apis, sorry, I was asleep. Are you okay? Is everything okay? Yeah, it's fine. There's a lot of bugs around, and did you see that massive one? No, I did not see anything. Well, there's a massive bug, kind of like with these termites, you pick one up and it's like, gross. Like, kind of like one of these, but enormous. Do you have a way with like telling people to? And she goes, yeah, of course. Let me try something. And then she's going to use her once per day ability to summon swarm, which specifically says that she summons a swarm of biting and stinging insects within 30 feet of her. So she basically calls on all of these creatures that are already here.
and she uses her magical sway as an empress bee. She's kind of like the queen of the queen bees. So she has an ability with to command biting and stinging insects, and so she uses that ability. It'll hopefully recharge in the morning, as long as you get a long rest out of it. And then all of the little termites that are sort of crawling around looking for something to eat around you, they all sort of turn and start rushing their way. Some of them crawling up and over your body, and they get right onto the edge of your hammock, and then she sort of commands them mentally, and they all crawl back up into the tree. And then as a huge big cloud of them, they start to like clamber their way back down the tree. Some of them are burrowing their way out of the bark and things and down the tree, and then she leads them away off into the forest. She can fly about 50 feet per round, so she can go a fair distance in a very short amount of time and lead them that way. And eventually you're left with a sound of silence other than a very distant buzz of her wings before she comes back. And she lands back on the hammock and says, I've led them away. They will disperse soon, but I imagine that they won't find their way back here again. The trees that you are attached to should be relatively clean of them now. Can I go back to sleep now? You can. Thank you very much, Mel. You're a lifesaver. Well, not a lifesaver. They would not have eaten you. Well, not those ones anyway. Maybe the big one. I don't know. And then she goes, with that in mind, she goes to sleep back in the tree that you're actually with your hammock attached to. So we go back to sleep. The morning comes to us. There's a cold breeze wakes us before it's super light. It's probably morning twilight. And Apis wakes up, stretches, yawns. No termites on you. Time to go. Gotcha. Time to go. So Apis gets back out of the hammock, starts to put it all away, gets the magic rope, gives it the command, and it lets itself loose from the trees, and then you get your net back from it. You walk back over to the area where your bedroll was and the rope. You start to get your caltrops back. I'm going to make a searching check, an investigation check to see if you can find all of your caltrops. I think it's more of a perception than an investigation, I think. So I'm going to make a perception check here. Ooh, not good. Not good. Technically, it's the start of the day. You have your lucky horseshoe and you have your inspiration. If you really want your caltrops back, if you want all of them back, you might want to use inspiration or lucky horseshoe to re-roll that. But otherwise, it seems like you're not going to find all of them. You're going to find maybe only half of them. Are we in the forest? Yes, we are. Oh yeah, Calindria, thank you for the reminder. You are in the forest, so I will allow for a +2 to that from your forest bonus. So that's an 11, not a 9. So, not the worst, but definitely not the best. Yes or no, would you like to re-roll that with either inspiration or lucky horseshoe? Yes or no? They don't cost that much, no. We can just replace them next time we can. Alright, so most people say no, let's not re-roll, so we won't. With an 11, 9 plus our 2 bonus from being in a forest, we managed to find about 55% of them, maybe about 60% of the ones that we had. So now we can spread them over a 5 foot square space and be quite damaging, like you wouldn't be able to move through it without taking damage. Or we can spread it across like 5 by 15 kind of space. We've lost about a quarter thereabouts of a quarter to a third of the caltrops that we had. It seems like maybe the giant termite snaffled some away, or the other creatures in the forest that didn't move loud enough to wake us snaffled some away. We walk we walk over to our bedroll. We roll it up again. We see that there's a whole bunch of bugs in it, and we kind of like flick it out and get rid of those. And we stuff them back in our bag. We've got our bedroll and our backpack and everything ready. We head over to the horse, and we find that the horse has been killed by a giant termite. No, it hasn't. I'm just messing with you. The horse has woken earlier and is just tied to a tree waiting for us to wake it up again. So we untie the horse and resaddle it up, feed it some of the last of the hay that we brought on the journey for it. Can we check the tree the giant termite was sniffing? Yeah, we absolutely can. So right before leaving, we head over to the tree that the termite was eating, and sure enough, it's got a huge chunks taken out of it. It seems to have been eaten, and then the termite has moved on. So you eat some rations as you swing your legs up and over the horse, and you set off in the southwesterly direction, continuing out of this forest. It takes about another half an hour of journeying to get to the edge of this forest. You make your way out, and from this side it seems much more. It goes back into that sort of savanna-y kind of terrain, but only for a very short amount of time, only for about 20 minutes of riding before you start to see more grass and hills. And it doesn't take you long to find the dirt path that was talked about. It kind of just blends from terrain into dirt path. There's no like a definitive start or end to it. You just eventually realise that I'm taking what would be the normal and natural kind of most intelligent route, and then as I'm walking, I eventually realise this is obviously walked enough that there is a dirt path made from it. Any handy herbs we recognise from the book? Not really, not from up here on horseback. You're riding with purpose to try and work out what's going on and why this stuff isn't making it through to Shadridge. And so you're not really stopping to investigate herbs and things on the way. As you walk for about another hour or so into the morning. Mel buzzing alongside you, eventually like occasionally dropping down and like telling you what she can see coming up ahead and stuff, helping to direct you, talking to you about like general sort of small talk. But after about an hour, Mel pops down and says, "Apis, there is a disturbance up ahead, like a one of those what do you call the things that the horses pull, like a cart?" Yes, like a cart. It is knocked. It is on its side up ahead, and there are people arguing. I think. We sort of crest up over the hill, the next one over, and sure enough, we can see like 100 yards ahead or so. We can see that there is a horse and there is a cart without a horse that is on its side, and there seems from here like there are 3 people around it. And what do you guys want to do? It seems like the sort of cart that may have been a supplies cart. That's bait. Could well be. Spy on them, listen to them. We could, yep, there is a bit of a tree line next to them, next to the horse and cart. There's some trees that you could sneak up through to try and get to them. Red Dead Redemption time. I don't know what that reference is, I've not played it yet. Can we listen to their conversation? If we tried to listen to their conversation, it would either mean getting close enough on the path that they would probably see us, or like trying to sneak up to them through the forest, through the very small wooded area beside them. But that would be pretty hard to do given that we're on horseback and we have a giant bee that buzzes. Watch from a distance. What do the people look like? Well, let's make a perception check first. See how much you can tell. Nat 1 plus 4. You can barely tell that there's people. You're about 100 yards away. You can tell that they're people. They seem to be humanoid in size, like human in size, about 6-ish foot tall, give or take a foot. And the cat seems to be wooden, seems to be regular sort of human design. There's nothing else you can tell about anything. Do they appear angry or distressed? With a nat 1 on perception, you can't tell anything from this distance. You'd have to get like almost all the way to them to tell any more information. Where is the horse from the carriage? Not in sight from where you can see currently. It could be dead, or it could be missing. It could be in the forest nearby, having a rest while they try and get the cart back up and running. Give me some other options in the chat. What do you guys want to do? Type the horse and sneak through the forest. Walk up on the horse, but ready. Ask Mel if she can find something for us on our behalf. Have they noticed us yet? It doesn't seem like it. Attack. You could attack them from here, just as an option. Just straight up attack without provocation, just on the hopes that they are trying to be hostile towards you and you get the first attack in. All right. So with 47% of the vote, Apis is in two minds about whether to tie up the horse and sneak or walk up but stay ready. Their mind is tossing back and forth, but at the very last second they decide, all right, I'm going to sneak up and see if I can tell what's going on here. So they take the horse, the old horse that they're riding on, the sort of elderly horse, and they tie it up to the nearby tree. And then they swing their leg off and they say to Mel, listen, Mel, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to try and sneak up through the woods here. And I'm going to see if I can get close enough to hear what's going on. I'm worried that this is some sort of a trap and they're going to try and bait us in and attack us or something. So I'm just going to watch, okay? I'm going to see how close I can get. No offense to you. You're pretty loud with your buzzing and things. And she sort of laughs. And, yeah, I know. I cannot help it unless I walk and then I move very slow. Yeah, I understand. So if you just want to stay here with Mr. Ed, I'll come back if I need your help. Right, you are. I'll stay here. And she lands on the saddle. So we are going to make a stealth check, and I will give us the +2 bonus because we'll be moving through the trees, which is our favoured terrain. Not technically a forest because it's not large enough for that, but close enough to get us the advantage. Stealth is, I believe, this one. All right, 19 plus another 2 for our forest bonus. It's pretty good. It's not bad at all. Not bad at all. We wander up with a 21 stealth. We make ourselves quite quiet as we're stepping. We get close enough that we can hear that there's an argument happening between two of them. And then it goes quiet, and then eventually, like, somebody says another comment, and it kind of kicks up a bit of an argument again. And at first, we can't really make out what they're saying, but then we get close enough. I'm going to roll something for them. Actually, I need to roll something for you as well. Okay. And I need to roll something for you. What do I need to roll? It's this one. Oof, not very perceptive though. Apis hasn't been very, very perceptive at listening to what the conversation is. But we're getting real close. Eventually, we're only like 20 yards away, maybe 60 feet, and we hide behind a tree, and we listen. And there's no sounds like they're trying to do anything. It doesn't sound like they're actually like attempting anything. They're not trying to move the cart. They're not trying to attach the wheel or anything. And then at one point we hear one of them say, "What are we even doing?" And she says, and a female voice says, "Just give it a second, all right?" This is like a heavy sigh. And then you hear, "Thunderbolt, do you see him?" And there's no answer, but you definitely heard that because they called it out relatively loud. You sort of you glance your face around the tree that you're hidden behind, and you can make out that there are 3 humans, 2 males and 1 female, and they're all just kind of standing by the cart, overturned, not doing anything really. With a 7 perception, you can't really tell anything else about them. You can't see if they've got weapons or anything. After a moment, though, you can tell that one of them is kind of like looking over into the tree line, and then looks up, and looks back down, and looks down pretty much directly at you, and goes, "Oh, hey, pal, excuse me. Could you give us a hand here? We've got a little bit of a problem with our cart." And it seems like he looked directly at you and then started waving. "Could you come and give us a hand here?" that's where we're going to leave next time. Thank you very much. I will see you next time for episode 25. Bye bye.